Hello to the beautiful, the exquisite, the powerful everyday women of the world. Welcome to the Startup Stories podcast, where the ambitious everyday woman is heard, is held, and is served in life and in business, bringing you relatable stories to keep you sane, to keep you grounded, and to keep you growing as you expand yourself and deliver your purpose to the world. Every time I read that intro, I feel it a little bit deeper, ladies, a little bit deeper. And I hope that it helps for you to normalize your experience and reduce any pressure, competition, and scarcity that you might feel inside. Because here at Powerful Inc., we do not hijack the nervous system. We calm it, we hold space, and we just be. We just be, baby, because that's all we got to do, isn't it, Jackie?
It is. It
It
is. It's all you
is.
can do.
It's all you can do.
It's all you
So,
can do.
you guys, today I trolled the internet and I picked up another hot lady. I didn't do
I'm
it
so glad
today.
you did. I'm so glad you did.
I met Jackie a while ago, but you know my style. I'm just like, who's out there? And in the meantime, lots of other guests are coming into the space too, but it's super fun when I stalk somebody into being my friend.
Oh my gosh.
The Monica Geller in me. So I don't know if Friends reference, right? There's you'll have to Google the Friends reference episode between Monica and Phoebe if you don't know what that
Oh,
means.
yeah.
But anyway, today, the beautiful, the delightful, the vivacious, Jackie Mott is joining us, and she's a fellow Canadian, which is important, lives about halfway, two-thirds across the country in Ontario. And
Yes.
so I found Jackie on the old Facebook and just started a conversation with her, and we've just connected on such a deep soul level, and it's been so wonderful. And then as I get to know her more, and we're going to dive into her story and who she is and what she's here to do, it's just a very beautiful and relatable experience. Where even if her story is not what happened to you, you'll find pieces of it that relate to your life. And the takeaway that I want you to think about as we go into this conversation and I introduce her is where in my life am I holding myself back? Where in my life am I holding myself back? Could be something small like in the kitchen. Where am I not cooking a little bit more intentionally, a little bit more like excitedly, right? Like, am I just doing pasta, sauce, meat, or am I experimenting a little bit? Because getting chills already, this is where we really create ourselves. We're not here to create ourselves only through our business success. We're here to blend it all into every fiber of our being, everywhere we touch. And that doesn't mean we have to be a master at everything. It's just a note and a highlight of encouragement to play in your life and push things a little bit further than they might be in whatever area. And this preamble to bring Jackie in because her story is like beautifully heartbreaking and wonderful. And Jackie's going to tell us that she wouldn't trade it for the world, but hot damn, was it la poops when she was going through it. So her husband, 27 years of marriage, beautiful child between them, and then whoosh, 27 years in, bye-bye, thank you, ma'am, so long, see you later. And Jackie was like, WTF, what just happened? And found herself at her own ground zero. And so, what do you do when you're faced with such a harsh circumstance like that? And it does affect, here we talk a lot about external circumstance, internal capacity, but in this situation, it's definitely hits your internal capacity and there's nothing. So, what do you do? Well, you take one step and then another, right? And you start to pull yourself up out of the rubble. And this was Jackie's gateway to freedom, to really see where she had been blocking herself. And now she can live out loud and fully and wholly and from a highly empowered state. And it doesn't mean she's the next Oprah, although she'd be a great one. But this is now where she can create a life that she never thought was going to be possible. And now that her and I have joined forces too, we will not
Oh,
stand, sit, or lay back and let you do the same. So, Jackie, let's get into it, baby.
hello.
Hello. Please talk now.
That was intense. Holy cow. Okay, I've got nothing to live up to here. Nothing at all.
Yeah, 6 a.m. I'm ready.
I am so excited that Mia did find me. I just have to tell you, it was amazing when we actually were able to finally connect and have a conversation. There was just, one of those, as she says, the soul connection,
Mhm,
that feeling of, okay, this person is meant to be in my world. And it
mhm,
doesn't happen all that often, at least that deeply. I mean, so I have a theory that I'll share with you right off the hop is
mhm,
that I have about three circles in my world that people fit into.
mhm,
There are like the intimate circle, the closest people. There are about maybe five people in that realm, and that is because those are my ride or die people. Those are my people who showed up and proved to me that they had my back, proved to me that they were there no matter what. And
mhm,
then there's sort of the middle circle where we have all those other people that we're close with. We care about them. We care about them deeply. And yet they're not quite at now they could move into the inner circle.
right.
They could. And maybe it's time, maybe it's something needs to happen to show their true colors. It's hard to say, but we want to keep them close, but they're not quite in that like intimacy with us yet.
Mhm, mhm,
And then there's the outer circle, and that's sort of everybody that we know and people that we care about, people that we want to keep in our world. And yet, maybe they're not really the right energy or the right fit for us, but we care about them. So Mia, right now, I think she's edging her way into that inner circle, just so you're aware where she's fitting in my world. She's sort of edging her way in. And I am so excited about that because I see what she is doing in this world. I see how valuable the work that she is doing is because not everybody is going to necessarily be the best Oprah,
mhm.
right? There's only one Oprah,
Yeah,
right? And that's great. We need Oprah.
yeah,
We also need everybody else.
yeah.
We also need everybody else. And what would it feel like if we could start to embrace our lives and engage our lives with passion and excitement and like whatever that is? I don't know if there are small kids around, they are great
Yeah,
examples of
yeah.
this, right? What if we could change a dirty bum with laughter and joy and engaged with that child or with that adult that we care for, or with nature, or with whatever, cooking.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what it is. What if you could engage in your life in a passionate, ignited way?
Right?
And I'm just here to tell you it's possible. It is
Yeah,
absolutely possible.
yeah. So paint the picture for, I'm like weeping already. The
Oh,
picture for
darling.
us sucked right in. Woo. Live engaged in your life. How were you living before? And who were you even 10 years ago? And, and then we'll go through that and we'll come out and say what things started to change to really try and make it
Mm,
tangible. Because I'm not encouraging big life events to happen in people's lives. Like the whole point is that we can do that right now, listening to this podcast. If you're washing dishes and they're kind of clunking around, you could turn up the volume and slow down the washing and
mm,
just be here a little bit deeper, right?
mm-hmm,
Instead
mm-hmm.
of having a 27-year relationship pull the rug out or, other event type of thing. So
Yeah.
that's the big piece because if we build that foundation, when something happens, as the saying goes, when life gets lifey, we'll be stronger to face it. We'll be more resilient. And that doesn't mean it's not going to suck. It just
Mm.
means that we will do a more peaceful, it'll be a more peaceful journey. It will still be painful. It will still have lessons. It will still have growth, but we'll be just a little bit more kind of like prepared or like stronger to walk into it.
Okay, so first thing that I think I want to say on that note is there are lots of things that happen in this life that we can't predict. And if you've been hit by one of those things, it's okay. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to struggle to get back up.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in that place right now with all of the love in my heart,
Mm.
take care of you and do what you need to do in this moment to get back on your feet. That's the first thing. Okay. And if that means that you need to rage, if that means that you need to scream, if that means that you need to hit a pillow, if that means that you need to cry, if that means that you need to go and sit in nature for a little bit, do it. Do it. Because one of the things that I recognized as I was going through this process, and there's a lot to this story, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can get everything in this hour that I've got with you. Um, but if not, then I'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah. She'll be in the summit in November, guys. So stay tuned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So one of the things that really became clear to me, and this actually was before the marriage ended, it was I was doing a lot of writing. I lost my sister in a car accident about 15 years ago, I think. And I was doing a lot of writing because that's how I process,
Mhm.
and I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah. Book.
Well,
Yep.
book,
Yeah.
number 1 international best-selling book.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of writing, and one of the things that hit me at one point was there is only one person on this planet that you will have with you from the moment you are born until the moment you die,
Mhm.
right? One person, and that's you. One. You are the person that you have. So it is essential for us to take care of ourselves well. You know, you hear people talking about put the mask on first,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's essential that we take care of ourselves. What happened as a result of, so I'll just sort of give you the backstory really quickly. I became a mom at 17, lived on welfare with my son for I don't know how many years, probably 5 or 6 years before I was able to get an education. In the meantime, I met my former husband
Mhm.
and we started to build a life together and went back to school, got my college diploma, blah, blah,
Yeah.
all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Started a
Finish
business.
growing up.
Started the business
Mhm.
because I didn't know what else to do. My son had some challenges, and keeping him in school or keeping him in like solid childcare became really difficult. So, although I'd gone to school and gotten this education,
Mhm.
I wasn't able to keep a job between appointments and,
Yeah.
dealing with the circumstances. I wasn't able to keep a job. So I decided to start a business. And wow.
Mhm.
Just, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know people who were in business. I was just like, okay, I've got this skill. I can do bookkeeping.
Yeah.
I can do bookkeeping.
And this is
So
like a
I'll,
while ago, right? Before the
oh,
internet was so
yeah,
prolific, right?
2020, yeah, 25
Yeah.
years now.
Yeah.
Um, so or no, I'm sorry, 2000.
Yeah. 2000.
It
Yeah.
was the year that we got married. Anyway, so
Yeah.
25 years ago, I started this business, and I'll tell you what, like face meet earth, it was insane because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't come from that background, right? And I had the skill set. So the beautiful thing was to keep trying and trying and trying. So started it here, then moved to another city, started it there, same result.
Mm-hmm.
Then moved to Alberta,
Hmm.
which is another province here in Canada, not far from Mia,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Next
far.
door. The Canadian
Um,
Texas.
so we moved to Alberta, and that one was the third time was the charm.
Okay.
And I learned so much in the process, but I also, and this is where I think this whole thing began, was making that move across the country
Mhm.
with my husband at the time, my almost grown son, a big dog named Missy,
Mhm.
and what we could carry into vehicles. That was, we had no jobs waiting. We
Yeah.
had a hotel room with a kitchenette waiting on the other end
Wow.
because I had come to a place where I understood that something had to change. And that was the thing that for some reason felt like it was the right move. And it
Okay.
was.
Okay.
Because what happened was all of a sudden this Jackie person who had, ruined her life at 16 when she got pregnant and, you know, all like just forget it, Jackie. All of your dreams, all of your goals, all of your happy blah
Right.
blah, forget it.
Right.
I had lived into that. And when I went to Alberta, all of a sudden I had people going, wait a second, you packed up two vehicles and moved across the country.
Mhm.
How brave are you?
Right.
Right. And so that feedback started to make me think about myself in a different way.
Mhm.
Right. And I started to think, wow, what if they're right? What if I'm not a failure? What if I'm not a loser? What if I'm not what if I didn't ruin my life? What if there's still time? What if I could still become? Right. And that's where it starts to get really interesting. Playing with those ideas. And at the time, I mean, I thought I had a solid marriage and I thought that we were good,
Yeah.
right? I was building this business. We were
Yeah.
accumulating some money for the first time in my life. We
Yeah.
weren't living in abject poverty,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh my God. So that was, I think, the turning point for me. At a certain point, I got sick. We decided we were going to move. It was always in the cards that we were probably going to move home,
Mhm.
but I got sick and it was necessary for us to make that decision earlier
Right.
than anticipated.
Mhm.
And about a year or so after that was when my sister had her car accident.
So you had to move
So,
home in order to be there for that, right?
well, in order to have time with her before it happened. And then, and I mean, there's a whole story that goes along with that. I don't really want to go too far into that
Yeah.
right now. But the story was obviously this was unexpected. This was a knock me flat moment. And one of the things I remember very clearly was thinking to myself, like, I've lost people before. I've lost people before, and I have never felt like this. I have never felt like I can't get back up on my feet. I've never felt like I can't function. I've never felt like just so lost and empty. And so the result was where the marriage, I think, started to fall apart. My ex-husband came home one day, and to be fair, I had not been honest with anybody. I had not
Mhm.
told anybody how badly I was struggling with my grief or what was actually happening inside me. But he came
Right.
home one day, and I was in my office sitting at my desk working away because that day I'd been able to find my focus,
Mm.
right? And it was so wonderful because I was struggling, but I was accomplishing something.
Right.
And he came into my office and I'm like, what are you doing home in the middle of the day? And he goes, oh, I lost my job. Now,
Mm.
if you've ever seen that movie Titanic, like this is how that moment felt for
Mhm.
me. Every time I've seen that movie, it's like
Wow.
the moment that she pushes Jack off of the door or whatever
Yeah.
she's on in the
Yeah.
ocean and he just sinks.
Yeah.
That was the moment because I was struggling so much just to keep my head above water and to keep functioning and keep showing up and keep taking care of him and our son and the house and the dogs and my clients and show up. And I had no idea how to do that. But in that moment, I felt very much alone and I felt like I went under.
Mhm.
And he was unemployed for about a year and a half after that. Um, By the time he found work again, we were struggling with some debt.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a whole other story there, right? Because
Sure.
debt and stress, financial stress is
Mhm.
really hard on a marriage, but it's also really hard on us in our beings, in our bodies.
Yeah.
It's really hard on us.
Yeah.
So there was this stress of like, okay, I can't find my feet again. I don't know what the hell does life look like without
Mhm.
her? What does it look like to never have a Christmas with my sister again?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I started going to the beach and I started listening to music in partly an effort to crack myself open because I recognized that I had gotten really shut down,
Yeah.
you know, especially after the loss of the job, but I recognized that. And also what happened in the meantime was that I'm pretty well connected in my community and people kind of like me,
Yeah.
you know.
Personable
So
for sure.
so I'm going through this grief journey and people are saying to me, "Oh, could you come and speak for my group? Could you
Mhm.
come and talk about what this has been like for you?" She was
Mhm.
also, by the way, she was also well known in the community. So I started to speak. And then one day this thing happened. And you know, isn't that always the way? One day something
Yes.
happens.
Yeah.
And I met these women and they were running this monthly group thing called Mo Mondays. I'm not sure if it's everywhere, but in Ontario, it was really big in London for a while.
Mhm.
And I had met them. I loved their energy, same sort of, like,
Yeah.
ooh, this person's meant to be here.
Yeah.
So I was talking with them one day because I was going to these things and I loved it. The format was basically this. You have a life-changing event that happens.
Yeah.
So you share three things that you learned. You share the story, but you share three things that you learned as a result of that story.
Mhm.
And excuse me. And so I was just loving all of these like people. Some of them I knew really well, some of them I barely knew, some of them I didn't know, but they were getting up there and they were sharing from a vulnerable place something that had happened to them
Mhm.
and what that had created for them. So I remember saying to one of them one night, I just love this so much. And one of these days I'm going to get on that stage.
Ah, so you were just going. You were just going
One,
to them.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of these days I'm going to be
One of
on that
these days.
stage.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing was that I was terrified of public speaking at that time.
Okay.
So small groups were okay,
Right.
5, 10 people, that was fine. But once you got into like hundreds of people,
Okay.
forget it.
Yeah, sure.
So about, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later, I get a call
Oh
from
my
one of
God.
them and right? She goes, so one of our speakers had to cancel. Something came up for them and they had to cancel for our next show, which is in 2 weeks. And we have a spot to fill. We'd like you to fill it. And I was like,
Mhm.
yes,
Croaked.
yes, yes, I'll do it. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've also learned that most of the time when you get that,
Yeah.
there's a thing,
There's a thing.
there's a thing that can be really, really good for you if you allow it.
Yes. Yes.
So I started to frantically write and I was writing, 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 writing because I was trying to figure out my three things. And so I was writing this whole thing about this grief journey and what it was like to lose my sister and what I learned in the process, getting prepared because I've got to be on a stage in front of hundreds of people in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I've got to come up with a talk. And most people have months to prepare for this, and I've got two
Mm.
weeks to do it. Anyway, so I'm like frantically
Yeah.
writing. And one day I had this moment where um, I hit my own grief. And that hadn't happened yet because I was so busy taking care of everybody and
Yeah.
everything that I had not yet hit this place where I recognized that I had lost my big sister. I'd lost the one who had danced me around the living room on her feet
Mm.
and taught me how to drive
Mm.
and taught me how to apply eye makeup
Mm.
and helped me take care of my son when he was small
Mm.
and all of these
Yeah.
things. And oh my God, it hurt, but it
Yeah.
cracked it.
Right.
Like it cracked me wide open, and all of this pain poured out. Also, one of the really great things for me was writing. And so, whatever your thing is, like maybe it's baking, maybe it's writing, maybe it's speaking, maybe it's singing. I don't know what it is,
Hmm.
because each of us, there will be a different
Yeah.
thing that we can do to help us process.
Yes.
So, if you don't know what that is, find it. Journaling can be a really great place to start.
Hmm.
Um, find it.
Yeah.
So, that's what happened. I hit this grief place. And I already had my three things, by the way. When I
Yeah.
hit that grief place, I already had my three things. I knew exactly what I was going to say. Well, that night comes and I get up on that stage and, knees knocking. But the most beautiful thing happened was as soon as the spotlight hit me,
Mm.
I felt like I was home.
Mm.
And I wasn't trying to be anybody that I wasn't.
That's right.
I was sharing my story from the place in my heart
Yeah.
that it was real and it was true. And the audience was with me every single step.
Hmm.
It was amazing. It was like I'm, looking out because people tell you, right? People tell you what to do from stage. They go, okay, so don't focus on one person. You've got to
Yeah.
scan,
Yeah.
right? And you've got to like engage people and maybe focus on one person in a moment, whatever. There are
Yeah.
techniques for
Technique. Yeah.
this,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm doing all the techniques and I'm talking about this very personal, very painful moment in my life. They were crying, they were laughing, they were with me. They were
Mhm.
absolutely with me. And I finally got to the place where my second thing, and I had said, okay, so I'm a believer in God. And
Mhm.
I had said there is no way that I am going to share
Mm.
that part that is so raw and so ouchy.
Yeah.
There is no way
Yeah.
that I am going to say that
Yeah.
from that stage. And I got my second point out, and then my mind went completely blank. And the only thing that was left
It was
was
that thing.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad because I had people coming to me months and months and months
Right.
later saying, thank you for sharing that because your willingness to open that up
Hmm.
allowed me to deal with my grief about my father that I lost 30 years ago.
Hmm.
Allowed me to, I was hearing from people that I knew that
Hmm.
somebody came to me and they, like counselors, right? They couldn't tell me who it was, and that was
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But somebody came to get
Yeah.
help because of what you said on that stage. And I was like, what? Like, I'm just a bookkeeper, right? I'm just a bookkeeper and a wife and a mom and a dog owner and
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
So that's where it started to get really interesting. The piece
So
about the marriage.
let's
Hmm.
pull out a few pieces here for a minute
Sure.
in this. So I want you guys to really hear what's happening in Jackie's life. It's happening over a longer period of time,
Mm,
and it's building into something. And as life is advancing over time, Jackie's starting to respond to things a little bit differently, starting to think about things a little bit differently, which then allows her to see opportunities that she might not have considered before
mm,
and is opening her up to more, maybe, well, let's try. Well, what could that look like? Rather than the very painful initial story of I ruined my whole life, there's nothing left. And like she was still a baby herself as a teenager, right? And so where these are all just such everyday examples of where we might be holding ourselves back from ourselves with some bullshit limiting belief, excuse not to. And so when Jackie was saying, well, what if this? And when maybe I'm not that, it's one of my favorite and easiest um, kind of coaching tools or even just self reflection is a side by side where you have your current belief and then, well, what else could be possible? Because there's like 9 billion plus people on the planet. So, whatever precise reality you're living in is not the only reality that you have available to you. If 9 9 billion minus one other people have done things slightly different than you, right? And that's not a comparison. That is what is possible.
Mhm.
What is possible. And then that the things that we go through are sometimes and most often meant for much greater. God uses us to help reach others. And that's such a poignant and like, laugh out of my chair because of course he would do that. Oh, you don't want to say that? Poof, and he like waves his magic wand. And then he's like, well, what you gonna talk about now, huh? 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 And you're like, ah, this is one of my, and Lord forgive me, but one of my kind of sarcastic and hilarious things is like, it can be a pain in the butt to follow Jesus because then you couldn't do the things you don't want to do, but he equips you to do them. And then look at where it took Jackie, not only for your own healing, Jackie, but then to touch other people's lives.
Yeah.
And then in that, you realize you're so much like how much is possible for you
Hmm.
as a result of that. This isn't relating to bookkeeping. This isn't to land coaching clients. This isn't to like rah rah how you went from, 250,000 in debt to a million in the green in the bank. This is just heart to heart sharing for your healing and for just the reason that you said yes to that speaking invitation. And the timing of that was meant to now take us into this next part of your story because your husband hasn't left you yet at this point.
No, 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 we were still together at this point, but what had started to shift in me, and I'm going to share with you mm, one of the hardest pieces of releasing my marriage and releasing him was a sense of guilt
Mm,
because now this thing has happened, right? So
right.
I've had this momentous moment
Yeah.
on stage, and I've had this thing happen where my sister is now gone, and that's caused me to re-examine my life. And am I happy? And what am I doing? And what could I be doing? And to your point, Mia, one of the things that I love to talk about is mindset. I mean, that's really my shtick, right?
Mm,
And we think that we know everything. Our
yeah.
brain is an amazing, wonderful machine, and it tells us what is possible. It tells us what we can have. It tells us there's all this conditioning inside us that says, okay, Jackie, you're just a bookkeeper. Jackie, you ruined your life at 16. Jackie, you blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right? But here's the thing. Our mind is very limited
Yeah.
because it's limited to the information it already has.
Yeah.
And as Mia said, there are 9 billion people on this planet. How many places have you never seen?
Mhm,
How many experiences that have you never had? When you start to play with this, like,
mhm.
wow, is something, and I love
Yeah.
just maybe, because there's no pressure, right?
That's
And
right.
then I can play with it and I can be like, ooh, what might that be like?
Mhm,
What might it be like to go and work on a beach,
mhm,
right? Like just somebody pampering me all day long. What might that be like?
mhm,
So getting into the really crazy time.
mhm,
Um, so it was 9 days before my tax deadline, still
mhm.
doing bookkeeping and taxes.
Yeah.
And we had had a separation a couple of years earlier for a few months, but then he came back and he said to me, because by then I'd started coaching, like people were like, oh, I want to work with you. Oh, I've
Right.
seen you speak. Oh,
Right.
I want to, how can you help me?
Right.
And so I'd started coaching and I was speaking. And he said when he came home that, that he couldn't get behind that work. So if I wanted the marriage, then I needed to let that go and focus on the accounting.
Right.
And I did. And I'm not going to say that I regret that because, I don't regret much. It
Mhm.
was the decision that I made at the time. I did lose a lot of momentum.
Right.
And it's okay
It's okay.
because momentum, you can build it again. I mean, here's the thing, if you have built it once, you can build it again. Okay.
Here for a sec.
So
So,
sometimes the timing is not
yeah,
right now,
yes,
but if you've done it,
yes.
if you have the skill set, if you have the God-given gift
Hmm.
to do something,
Hmm.
it may go away for a little while. You may make decisions that might take that a bit off track,
Yeah,
and that's okay.
yes.
It's okay because you will find your way back. Those things that are meant for us are never gone.
And you
They're
have
never
to,
gone.
like, it's so important to sit in that, you guys, because otherwise you're always activating and hijacking your nervous system
Yeah.
in scarcity and survival mode. And this is a big piece, I swear I'm living through it now, of just being
Mm,
okay with what is. And what's
yeah.
happening is like I'm showing up way more comfortable
Yeah.
because now it just is. It is like hanging out with friends when I'm out there offering my coaching services, audience or not. I'm just like, this is where it's coming from. And
Hmm.
it is
Hmm.
pressureless. And there is an expected result, but there's no like Amazon 24-hour delivery guarantee. And that normalizing that and creating that safety in your body
Hmm.
is so crucial to sustaining it. And like Jackie's saying, to waiting for when it comes around again. And in this case, you were shown something very big, like a day in the life of Jackie 5 years from now or whatever the timeline is, right? And so now you have evidence in your life. Your brain has this more information that is in the database that you can access again.
Hmm.
So, yes, I love that because you don't have to do everything right now.
Hmm.
We take each day as it comes, but we can take a little bit for granted that there are more days to come too. Okay, so keep us going because that is really powerful of sitting in the moment. And what's
Yeah.
really great here too, Jackie, is you came back to all of that. So now you're living evidence to all of the listeners and that you can rebuild momentum, and that
Yeah.
really allows that scarcity mindset to drop away and be
Yeah.
safe with what is.
Yeah. And one of the things when we're talking about lack or scarcity, one of the things that oh God, I just love, you got to get the book because
Yeah,
it's all in there. But one of the things I really love to say is like, you've always had enough.
yeah.
You've always had enough. And I know that you've always had enough because you're still here, you're still breathing,
Mhm,
you're still with us, and you're with us on this podcast,
mhm.
right? So you've always had enough. Now maybe it's time to start thinking about what would I like?
Mhm,
What would I enjoy?
mhm,
You know, maybe enough isn't enough
mhm.
anymore, right?
Yeah,
So, and it's okay if it takes you
yeah,
time. It's okay if you have to step out. The guilt that I dealt with was because I knew that something was shifting, and I had so much, like it was a very codependent relationship. And I had so much invested in him, in the relationship, all of my goals, all of my dreams, all of my plans for the future were all tied up in this marriage and making him happy,
mhm,
and being the perfect wife, which I wasn't, but that was also another stick that I would beat myself over the head with, right? I'm not the perfect wife. Well, who is?
yeah,
Who is,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it was actually a blessing. And it took me a long time to get there because I was just feeling guilty and I was feeling obligated. I was feeling like, okay, I took these vows, but man, what would my life be like?
Mhm,
What could my life be like?
mhm,
And understanding on some really deep level that he simply couldn't go with me. Whether he may want to or not, he wasn't the right person to accompany me on this leg of my journey.
mhm.
He had been valuable to me for obviously for a long
Yeah.
time, right? In some ways. And one of them was providing me the safety and the feeling of security in my life
Mhm.
because, he was my husband, right? And
Mhm.
so that created this false sense of security, in all honesty. But
Yeah.
this security that I had allowed me to then explore and blossom into who I was becoming
Right.
and heal those things inside, or at least start healing. I mean, I don't believe healing is ever a like one and done
Complete.
thing. I think it's a
That's right.
journey,
Yeah.
right? But starting that healing, starting that emergence, starting that, you know, blossoming into and exploring these like, oh, I'm just a bookkeeper, but man, I did that. Holy
Mhm.
crap, really? That happened because of something that I said on a stage? Are you kidding me?
Mhm.
So all of that. Anyway, so 9 days before my tax deadline,
Right.
I came upstairs and he was up earlier than I was. He was sitting in the living room and I made myself a coffee. I had a client coming in an hour and a half. So I had an hour and a half to start my day, make my coffee, have my shower, all of the stuff,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Brand new client coming in an hour and a half. And so I said good morning, gave him a kiss and a hug,
Mhm.
opened up the blinds, and I was like, okay, so we haven't really had a lot of time together lately, because it's been really busy. How do you feel about going to a movie tonight?
Mhm.
Oh, well, the hockey game's on tonight. And I went, okay, so I'm feeling really disconnected from you, and I really would like to spend some time together tonight. And his response was that he wasn't happy. He hadn't been happy. He hadn't wanted to do this that particular day, but since I'd brought it up, he was done with the marriage.
Yeah.
And he was gone. He was packed and gone within about 2 hours. So
Wow.
while I was meeting with this new client,
Wow. Can't
he
even.
was packing and gone the moment that that person went out the door. He showed up at my office door and the car was packed. He was going. So, yeah, like my entire life blew up minutes,
Mhm.
in minutes. And
Mhm.
there was a real journey to that healing. And I still, in all honesty, I still feel like sometimes I'm going through
Yeah.
pieces of that, right? Because it hit so many different things. I found out that there was another person
Mhm.
a few weeks later, and um, that hit
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Not
every,
enough. Not good. No matter what I did. No, I'm a piece of crap, etc.
oh, wow. It brought
Mhm.
up all of I call them demons. I
Mhm.
call these voices in the back of my head, I call them my demons, and I say that I dance with them sometimes.
Mhm.
Right? So when my demon starts to tell me I'm not good enough,
Mhm.
when my demon starts to tell me that I'm not pretty enough or skinny enough or what anything, I'm not funny enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not like anything enough,
Yeah.
right? Not the truth. That's why I call it a demon because it is not truth, right? I did not ruin my life when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
I did not ruin my life by marrying the person that I married. I did not ruin my life. Darlings, your life is not ruined.
Yeah.
You may be going through some temporary crap. You may have made decisions that have made things more challenging.
Mhm.
I was an A+ student. I was an honor roll student when I got pregnant.
Mhm.
And when I think about that girl and what she bought into, the stories that she bought into, and I think, my heart breaks for her.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter, like what did she do wrong? Oh, there's a baby coming. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. There's a beautiful creation,
Mhm.
gift from God showing up on this planet. Oh no.
Ah, stigma.
Right?
Stigma. Stigma. Yeah.
If I had had a different point of view that I could have bought into,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, things were definitely more complicated, but there is no reason in the world why I could not have gone on to do everything that I thought that I wanted to do. There's no reason in the world, right? So this is the stuff. This is this believe all things are possible because our beliefs shape our reality. They shape what we believe that we can do or what's available to us. What does it mean to love or be loved? What does it mean to be successful or failure? What does it mean? What does it mean to have money or not have money? What does it mean? And that's
Yes.
all living back there. And we can change that. And that is the really exciting thing that came out of all of this. Like, holy crap, what does it mean that he's now found another person? What does it mean that I wasn't enough to keep him satisfied and at home? What does it mean that I have now been left? And when you talk about debt, holy crap,
Mhm.
the financial mess that, what does it mean? What does all of this mean? I thought I would lose my house. I thought that I would become dependent on my mother for the rest of my life. I thought. And like you think about that and you're like, okay, but you had a bookkeeping business. You were successful,
Mhm.
right? Why would you think that you were going to become dependent on your mother? Like,
Yeah.
where does that come
Yeah.
from? It comes from here.
Self-deprecating. Because you don't, like you said, the brain as a database
Yeah,
only sees and processes what it has.
yeah,
And the unknown is literally unknown.
yeah.
But if you can play in that maybe space or the side by side alternate reality game,
Hmm.
then you can start to bring that in. And I think that's the power of visualization, not as something frou-frou, but of acclimatizing your physiological self
Hmm.
to feel and be in a situation different than the one that you're actually living. And then you normalize that, you familiarize that, and it
Hmm.
becomes part of your database, even though it hasn't happened. And,
Yeah.
manifestation, prayers answered, preferably, thank you. And working towards that with a conviction and a certainty that maybe it is possible. And in all of this, you said at the beginning, like engaging in your life a little bit more. So we've heard of being present. Oh, look at my computer and how silver it is. Also, like you are the steward of your thoughts because
Hmm.
you are a soul living in a body. And if you can observe your mind and its thoughts and let your soul kind of go around that, then you steward your thoughts, which believe such a great title for a book all about the actual way that you do this in your day.
Hmm.
Right? Like again, guys wearing the best day ever t-shirt, copy number two. I have three of these t-shirts in the house, not wearing the same stinky t-shirt every day. Anyway, this is how you have your best day ever every day. Like, I kind of have, I'll give an example and then we'll give it back to Jackie to kind of round off because her and I, oh my God, we need to do like a day-long workshop or something around all of this. This
Yes, please.
deep, deep conversation. But the thing is, it's just happening in the day to day.
Mhm.
It is like Jackie still has her job as a bookkeeper, her business, right? She's launched her coaching career. She's become a best-selling international author, but she's still Jackie. She still has her son. She still has her friends. She still has her life. It's not like she's jet setting with diamonds, on the daily. Like we're still just the women that we were. We're just more of her because we're practicing and implementing this into the day to day. So I just want to give a hopefully a very relatable and boring
Mhm.
example of what all of this means. I have a dumb but important job, right? When neighbors complain about each other, I come in and sort them out. And it's hilarious to me because I am like such a youthful and colorful person who has to do this very serious and authoritative type job. So I always have this duality of two different personalities that have to coexist. So instead, I mush them together and I get some semblance of a decent bylaw officer out of it because I was compartmentalizing them.
Yeah.
And the context here is just that is this mindset where you let your soul lead is what else is possible. Well, I have to be like this and I have to be serious and I have to that. At work, I allow myself to be expressed professionally. I'm representing my local government, so I am, sort of like an ambassador and I am branded under their culture, but I am still Mia, the beautiful, sparkly human, and I can have some fun with it. And I have a lot of autonomy over how I run that service. And there are days where the complaints are so mundane and petty that I get frustrated. So now I allow that frustration, like Jackie was saying, let yourself go through it, express those emotions, and then come back around. And for me now, I'm like, well, how can I have fun with this? How can I engage and create meaning for myself in this and make it interesting by shifting my perspective? I am not in the business of behavior change. You are in the business of your own behavior change, which is like, great catchphrase for what Jackie and I are talking about here. So if I can't change how somebody else is going to behave, including my child every morning on the way to school or at bedtime every night, bless her sweet little heart, wouldn't trade her for the world, then what am I going to change about myself? And how am I going to make this better and more peaceful and enjoyable for myself? And so, very wonderfully, like, I honestly, guys, I hate returning voicemails at work. I dread it. But then every once in a while, I get given a gift. And I returned a voicemail with a woman, and I'm going through the list. And I'm like, okay, here we go, another one. Hi, so and so calling back. How can I help you? And it was a complaint about noise. And you never know what you're walking into. And this is where, when you apply the thought stewardship, you can have little blessings like this. So I just want to keep reminding of the context while I share this delightful story. So I call this woman back. She's complaining about noise, and there's construction happening very close proximity to her home, and it's rattling the bed. And she's telling me this. She's like, is there anything that can be done? Because it really rattles the bed. And then there's like it felt like a very conscious pause between the two of us. And then she goes, I mean, I know some people would pay good money for that. Just about fell out of my chair. And I was like, oh. And we're howling on the phone. And I'm like, thank you for saying that. Because like, I was totally thinking it. So we're staying in the professional capacity, but we're being real with each other. And that was it. That just erased all of the other garbage that was holding on in the day, right? So sometimes somebody can help shake you out of it, but you have to be a little bit soft inside, like Jackie was saying about the cracking of the grief. You have to be a little bit soft. And when you go through something and you hold yourself, you can apply it everywhere, everywhere. I joke a lot about folding laundry, but I have been doing conscious thought stewardship that when I fold, and it sounds so cheesy, but like I'm really grateful to have the laundry. I have too many clothes. So if I don't like folding laundry, my choices are get rid of all your clothes, girl, or enjoy having what you have. And it's so simple. And sometimes I get a bit frustrated with like all the cliches of it. But this is how we really like what, Jackie, reprogram, build ourselves into a state of it's always been enough. But now, how can I turn that enough into more service and even return in my own life?
Yeah, I have a phrase that I use when I talk about this stuff, and it's the subliminal soundtrack.
Mm,
So I talk about it from a place of rewriting the stories,
mhm,
right? Rewriting the belief systems to support us One of the most important jobs that I've ever done is being a mom.
Yeah.
And I was thinking actually just this morning with my first cup of coffee, I was outside. I've got this patio spot and I was sitting out there and I was thinking, what am I most proud of? What am I most proud of in my life? And first and foremost is the human being that I've become, because I think that that is absolutely essential.
Mhm.
If you're not the kind of person that you like,
Mhm.
then you got to do something about that, right?
Mhm.
If you can ground yourself in, you know what, I'm a solid friend. I do the best I can with pretty much everything that I do, even if maybe some days it's not everything. If it's all I have to give, then it's all I have to give. I do the very best I can. I show up in the best way that I know how. I do my very best not to cause harm to anyone.
Mhm.
I'm very proud of those things. My career, my work, yes, I'm proud of that stuff too, but at the same time, it's like more about who am I in
Yeah.
this world and what kind of an impression am I going to leave on the lives that I am part of or that I've touched,
Yeah.
right? My son, he is the biggest, best job that I have ever done in my life. Now he's a grown man now. He does still live here because stuff happened, pandemic, all of that other stuff. And he's a good guy,
Mhm.
you know? So there are some people I think that like if you're talking about jet setting, and I don't even know if I'll ever want to do that. Like I know that that appeals to some people. I'm not sure that that really appeals to me.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm open. I'm open to trying it.
Maybe. I mean, that pampered on the beach
Possible.
thing sounded pretty good.
It's possible. So, um, but I think that the stuff that we don't understand is that the biggest impact sometimes that we make
Yeah.
is just in doing those things that we do. We show up as whatever partner, mom, whatever job, because each of these are roles, right? And we show up in those roles, and you know, if you do your best, if you do the best that you can, he and I have talked a lot because he's now a grown man.
Yeah.
And it was so amazing because, and it was, I think, shortly after the marriage ended, he came to me one day and he said, I was just thinking, Mom, and like you were 17 years old,
Mhm.
and it was amazing because I think the healing or the whatever that was going on around the life change
Mhm.
um caused both of us to be kind of reflective.
Yeah.
And he said, I've been thinking about this a lot. You were 17.
Yeah.
Like and he had been carrying around anger. I hadn't done enough. I hadn't whatever said the right thing at that moment or done the right thing at that moment. By the way, there is no perfect mom. There
No.
is no such
No.
thing. So just throw that out the window and do the best you can.
Right.
That's all you got.
Yeah. It's all a crapshoot.
Um, but he said to me, you were 17 years old.
Mhm.
And wow,
Yeah.
right? Like, look what you did. And and he knows some of the challenges and all of that stuff, but like just that one piece.
Yeah.
What did you know at 17 years old? He says, I'm 20, almost 20 years older than you were when you had me,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure that I could have done any better than you did. So it's those moments, and if you're in a place where somebody offers you love like that, offers you understanding, compassion, forgiveness, whatever that thing is, I would really, really, really encourage you to hear them and acknowledge and allow it. Allow yourself to receive that, right? Because I absolutely believed that I had not done um,
The right
some of the
thing.
things that I would do
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
If I became a mom now, I would do things completely
Sure.
differently.
Sure. But you're a completely different person.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing in this is it's safe to be who you are.
Mm.
It's safe to be who you are as long as you're not a huge dick. Like intentionally running around hurting people. And most of
Just
us
don't
are
be a dick.
not. Most of us are not the bad person that we think we are, right? And like in sharing, it's in the day to day, like that hilarious phone call. I'm going to be talking about that forever.
Yes.
And it was so just blended in. But because I showed up, in integrity, in service, proud to be the woman that I am at
Mhm.
work, at home, etc., I got that gift. And it may not land me a $10,000 client or pay off my debt overnight or any of those sensational things, but it went in my heart. And my heart's glowing brighter as a result of that. And then that feeds my soul to keep showing up for little beautiful drops of experiences like that, that
Mhm.
then lead to whatever else and
Mhm.
whatever else and whatever else, right? And that's the whole thing. And I love that you say, most moms will say, my kids are what I'm most proud of. But Jackie, you make such a powerful point about being most proud of yourself. And then immediately on your heels, hopefully, of your children too,
Mm,
right? Because let's bring it all back to the beginning. You are who you're always with, always,
mhm.
always. You invest in you and in your time. We have talked about so much, such deep spaces. We didn't really get a chance to the next chapter of where Jackie's at, but I think it's kind of evident
Mm,
that now she's living in her best life, and there's just going to be more of that to come. And it doesn't mean there's not enough of it now. Now it's just party's on. The party's on, baby, and let's go. So Jackie and I are going to stay in each other's space. We're going to continue to show up for you all and do fun things. And I'm going to encourage you to go and follow her along on her socials. She's got her website. She's on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Jackie Mott Mindset Empowerment. And all those links will be in the show notes. And she's working on her YouTube channel and whatever else is coming up. So you just get in her space and stay there. And let's all go out and get that book. Maybe we could do a book club on Jackie's book.
I would love to do that. That would be fun.
Yeah, yeah, and do that. So anything that you want to say in closing to our listeners, to me, to yourself?
Well, to you, thank you. Thank you for stalking me into being your friend because I'm very thrilled to be in that circle with you. And just do the best you can, right? To the listeners, just whatever it is, do the best you can.
Yeah.
And that's enough. Whether people want to tell you that it is or not, that's their stuff, right? Just show up in the best version of you that you can. And if you need help, you know, people like Mia and myself, and there are lots of people. If we're not the right land, well, I would have to guess that we're the right voices for you because you're here. But
Yeah,
if we're not, find the right voices, right?
yeah,
Follow me,
yeah,
check in with me. If you've got a challenge, please reach out.
yeah.
Please reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation and see how
Mhm.
we can. And believe it or not, some of this stuff is really very quick.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Awesome. Well,
Mhm.
thanks so much, Jackie. Have the best day ever.
Thank you, you too.
Mwah.
Mwah.